how to use the cognitive behavioral Torah teachings as techniques, as ways by which we can redeem ourselves to be the best that we can be, so that our relationships will be improved because of it. And there's really, that's the main place we have to begin with. When we really can apply these teachings to our own personal development, and really freeing ourselves from the entrapment of the ego, the hurt feelings, the self-absorption and talk and self-insistent infliction of pain and suffering because someone loves us or doesn't love us, or someone paid attention or not paid attention to us. When we can redeem ourselves from that neediness, when we can really become more and more of our own ownership to our own happiness, and not be dependent on other people to feel good about ourselves through other people, then we have the power to rise above and then give it our best all. Just like we must do that with children. Children will have their tantrums, children will act not nicely, and yet we still feed them, we still hug them to bed, we still cuddle with them, we still love them when they are least lovable. And it takes time and energy and effort to rise above with our own children. But we have to apply those same goals in our love and relationship with our spouse just as much and more. Because if we end up behaving not so nicely, coldly, distantly, or we let them keep us in a sad state, or we let them swallow up our self-respect and self-love, then the self-doubt grows and the distance grows. Then they feel it, and then they get more upset, and then they get more distant, and then it becomes a vicious cycle. So if I had to say in one sentence, what we have to do is to empower ourselves not to be needy of the other people to make us feel good about ourselves. To do the daily spiritual practice, to align our soul to the truth of our existence, that we did not leave Kisei Kavod up in Shemaim. We did not leave the heavens above to come down here to feel good about ourselves by other people, and whether they love us or not love us, pay attention to us or not pay attention to us, caress us or not caress us. We become detangled from that energy of neediness and be the God-giving, loving, compassionate person that we were meant to be. And really, it's in relationships that we have the most opportune time to be more God-like and give unconditionally, like God gives us unconditionally. So if someone feels very unaligned, meaning they are emotional, they're crying, they're sad, they're anxious, they're brokenhearted, they're feeling buried, they're feeling lifeless, they're feeling like all their vitality is sucked out of them, then they're not aligned properly with the truth of their existence. They're not aligned properly with the source of their importance and need of being the lamp lighter in the world. They're not spiritually aligned with the core essence of their soul, of how godly and great they truly are, and that they don't need anybody to make them feel good about themselves. Then they cut the cords of that unhealthy relationship, because that's a kind of relationship that is self-serving, as if you're using somebody else to feel a value. Nobody needs anybody to feel a value. You are born, you've been chosen for a mission, to light up the world with your own godly light. And I'm hoping and praying this will help people realize this is the key to freeing up the mind and the heart of the muck of the Yetzer Haras and the evil inclinations and the trickery of these hoodlum thoughts that can break a person and make them feel like drowning because they don't seem to get that from the other. Imagine an umbilical cord connected to all the people you know. And a healthy umbilical cord is a passageway for goodness to flow through. But then there's a type of a cord that's just taking in the toxins and taking in everything that's dangerous for the baby, God forbid. You would want to cut that cord. So what we have to do is undo the connections with other people that are not healthy. Meaning you don't disconnect from the person, you disconnect from your neediness of them. And rather you empower yourself to say, I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to love even the most unlovable, because that's the way of Aaron Cohen. He honored and he treated everyone like royalty, and that brought out the good in them. And here today we have amazing, beautiful neshamas that are going to share some of their experiences of how this approach, this work of redeeming yourself from the neediness of the other and being empowered to say, I will rise above. I will be the role model. I will be the person that has the power to give unconditionally, to love compassionately. But again, if you're not aligned spiritually, if your godly soul is in slumber state because you didn't pray and because you didn't learn after prayer, and then your fuses are really like starting to dissipate and actually shut out, then you have no tolerance for yourself nor the other. But when you do this spiritual practice of realigning your soul back into your body, it's like you pray, you open the door to your soul, and then you learn Torah to give nourishment for your soul so you can rise above the challenges that are in your relationships. And we have learned before in evaluating what level of a neshama you are. You might be fire, you might be earth, you might be air, you might be water. And so you have your challenges in one or all four of those, developmental characteristics that you are here on this earth to fulfill. But so too, your spouse may have one or four elements that are different than your challenges. So just like you have to be compassionate on your own self and be at peace with the process of like really aligning yourself and channeling these elements, as we have discussed in other CBTT classes, so too we have to put on that same compassionate, and understanding toward the other, and not take personally when they are fiery angrily or fiery anxiously, on top of us, or when they are maybe, in a rut and very earthy and depressed and lazy and not getting anything done, to make the family dynamics go forward. Or maybe they have an air element and they have such diarrhea of the mouth, or maybe they have such taivas and they're so addicted to their phone, or they're addicted to food, or whatever it is that's like blocking them and challenging them. And they may have a greater amount, and it may be way more challenging for them to get out of that rut and realign themselves, especially if they are never have been given the information that we're going to be sharing with you today. So I'd like to invite Devorah to who is part of this team of ours, and the team is growing. Thank you, Hashem, of becoming more knowledgeable about the secrets of the Torah and how to use it in every facet of your life, especially in love and relationships, especially in marriage. And then we will, I'll get back on again and I will have question and answers, and we'll have a little bit of a back and forth take with some questions. Maybe the connection went down, so maybe we'll just wait a moment and take a deep breath. We got to breathe more.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. Thank you for all you do and for all that you've done for me. So everything that Miriam said, you know, I'm like a testament to it. You know, I've been married, thank God, right now for 13 years. And I have to tell you, another title that I would make this class would probably be Cinderella Part 2. What they didn't tell you about the happily ever after. You know, like it's not, marriage is not supposed to be easy. And there's I had a lot of ups and I had a lot of downs, but it wasn't until I learned Miriam's book on kindness on marriage, until I listened to all her lectures, until I worked with her myself. And Baruch Hashem, now I'm in a much better place where I could pass on that wisdom that I learned, that I can say that, no, my husband is not perfect. But now today I can say that I'm not perfect either. And Miriam taught me that. And I'm not saying that I was high maintenance and I was like very demanding and I was like up in like La La Land and I wanted everything from my husband. Not at all. I'm actually very down to earth, very simple type of girl. But you know, what I learned is from CBTT and from all of my, you know, all of my sessions and, you know, from my growth through Miriam, is that it was really up to me. That we as women, we are Gevura, we have the strength to take the first step, to initiate. And we can only do that after we refine our own character. Like first we have to refine ourselves. And when after we do that, we are on our soul state. And we have clarity and we have direction, min hashamayim, from Hashem, when we refine ourselves. And how we refine that is, of course, through clinging to Hashem, through doing the steps, the tefillah, the meditation, the learning, following those, you know, everything that Bezrat Hashem people will learn and when working with a CBTT practitioner. But I have to say that it opened my mind to so much of the ups and downs that I had. And I'm not saying we don't have ups and downs now. And I'm not saying that we're in a perfect place, because I don't believe that marriage is supposed to be in a perfect place. There's give and take, there's sacrifice. But I do have a certain menuchas hanefesh now, peace of mind, that I didn't have before. I can't tell you how many times I called Miriam crying and telling her that like I'm a mess and he did this and he didn't do that and I can't take it anymore and I give up. And like I just was in a place where I wanted to end it. And I know it's a very vulnerable and it's a very it's a little bit difficult for me to be so vulnerable and say all of this to people. But if I can help one person, then it's worth it for me to feel uncomfortable for a few minutes. But I was in such a dark place. And when I learned to refine myself and I worked on myself, then I was able to have a brand new perspective. And Hashem gave me the koach that I was lacking to feel empathy, to feel compassion, and to see my husband with a completely new understanding, and to see, wait a second, like, we are two different people, true, but at the end of the day, we were one neshama. And I am here to be Ezer Kenegdo. Hashem said to the woman, you have to be Ezer Kenegdo. We have the strength to initiate the compassion, the empathy, the patience, the bond. And then the husband will follow suit. But we need to trust. We need to trust that step, that if we take the initiation, it will happen. You know, I remember Miriam telling me that we have to be the lamplighter. And I always loved that phrase. The woman has to be the lamplighter. And I could, in all honesty, tell you that I didn't like it in that time when she was telling me that, because I was thinking, why do I have to be the lamplighter? He should be the lamplighter. Let him treat me like a queen, and then I will treat him like a king. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I wanted a $5,000 bag, or I'm not like that at all. Like, little things even that we were lacking. Communication was lacking. I don't know, like things that were like basic to like human knowledge, but for some reason, some men have such a difficult time with it. And I was just blocked. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get through to him. And when I surrendered it to Hashem gave me wisdom, koach, patience, understanding, compassion. And when I, so to say, gave him that same patience and love and understanding as I would give my 7-year-old child, and I know it can sound a little like, well, like maybe I'm not trying to insult my husband, but unconditional love is unconditional love. And if I'm not going to walk out of the house on my kids, why would I do that to my husband? Now, I'm talking about a healthy circumstance. I'm not talking about chas v'shalom physical abuse where you have to sit and suffer. And like, I'm not talking about, but I'm talking about a regular under healthy circumstances that we shouldn't give up. I was in so many places in my marriage where like, there was such lackings. There was avoidance. There was passive aggression. There was a lot of arguments. There was so many times of back and forth, dragging to like divorce, no divorce, go to rabbi, next rabbi, this rabbi, that therapist. We had a lot of tough phases. And I'm telling you right now, nothing helped me like the way Miriam helped me, like her teachings helped me. And I'm going to be forever grateful for her. And every day, every single day, I'm not saying like you, and then there's a happily ever after and then you're finished. No, like every single day you have to work on it. Every single day you need to understand that whatever I did the day before, I have to do it again. You know, it's always a learning process. It's always hard work, but that's why we're here. Like Miriam said, we didn't come here to be in Paradise Island and have expectations that everything's going to be perfect and the other person has to do all the work. No, we need to acquire humility. We need to crush our ego, acquire the humility that we need. And then when we have that humility and we lower ourselves, and then we do the steps that we learn as CBTT coaches, and we do those steps, then we give our husband a chance. We give our soulmate a chance to start climbing up the ladder again. And then slowly, but eventually, it's a process, they will start to change. And I'm telling you, like, there are certain things that happened within my marriage that I never thought I would see. You know, there's so many things that I'm still waiting to that I'm hoping and I'm praying that it's going to get better. It's not magic, but it has to start with somebody. It has to start somewhere. And we as women have certain brachos and certain strengths from Hashem, and men have certain strengths. But one of the things that we have the most strength for is the midah of compassion, the midah of understanding. That's us. The same way that you're a compassionate and loving mother and you try to sit and communicate and understand your child, you have to be the same way with your husband. Even if it means that, yes, you have to be the initiator. Even if it means that, yes, I'm not in the mood. Why should I do it? Like, we are not little children anymore. At some point in our lives, we have to put on our big girl panties, you know? And I'm sorry for that word, but it is the truth, you know? And I can't tell you, like, I can feel Hashem's, like, presence in my home, because I I don't have constant arguments. I don't have constant anger and ups and downs, like constantly. And also the way it was affecting my children, it wasn't healthy either. And when you have more and more shalom bayit, you will see that Hashem's Shekhinah will rest over your home, and you will feel it. And then you have the element of protection over your home as well. So it all starts with you. It all starts with your compassion and your empathy, your humility. And how do we get that? Because that's very hard to work on. It's not easy midot. How do you get there? Is when you do the steps of turning to Hashem, praying, learning, meditating, and then Hashem gives you the koach, surrendering. I can't tell you how many times I went to Hashem and I literally, like, told him, after my tefillot and my siddur, I told him, this is what I need help with. I need strength. I need this. I need that. And over time, when the other person sees it, they hear it, and then they also feel the energy. They're like, wait a second, something is changing. And then they start to model your behavior. They start to go along. It's like a certain energy that comes over you because you are changing. You are reaching the state of your neshama that you're supposed to be in. When you elevate your soul, then you're able to elevate other people as well. So it all starts with you. I highly recommend that you buy Miriam's book, Kindness in Marriage. And again, I'm a CBTT practitioner working under Miriam, training under Miriam. And Baruch Hashem, I already had a client that I've helped already with some shalom bayit issues, and I'm so happy that it's working and helping her. And I'm here for you if you ever need to reach me. I'll leave my phone number in the chat. But please don't give up. There is hope out there, and I'm a living example of it. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Miriam. We don't hear you, Miriam. She has to unmute you.
Oh, I get to thank you again. And again, thank you so much for being who you are and being the beautiful neshama that you are, caring from the deepest part of your heart and soul and sharing your light. And may Hashem bless you and continue to give you the strength to pave the way for the newer generation that needs it, not when they're 40 and 50, but when they're, like, dating even, and even before, so that they'll be way ahead of the game before they even say I do.
Yeah, whoever has the merit to learn that at that age is really blessed. They're really blessed. It will save a lot of headache.
Yes. So
thank you, Miriam.
Thank you. So I'd like to invite Hannah to share a little, if she's available, and then we'll go back to some deep learning of Hasidus, of how to really apply with wisdom the newfound strength and self-mastery to be able to be kind in marriage, to be able to be kind and compassionate in all of your relationships, so that what people do around you doesn't, one, snuff out your light, and two, that you can rise above. And as the Rebbe used to say, women have the power to bring out the light in other people. That's why she was gifted with the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. So without further ado, hi, Chana. Thank you for being part of our CBTT team members and really doing a lot behind the scenes to make things happen. Thank you for the beautiful flyers. Thank you for putting the Zoom together and a lot more. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Hannah, and I have several projects, which, well, the reason, Miriam and I met because of my Jewish magazine called Jewish Posh Lady Magazine, and that's the one that was the point of connection. So today we're going to talk about, how CBTT can improve your marriage, and it, oh my gosh, it's so true. Especially for me, I just gotta tell you, like, I went through this trial, if you will. Like I feel like Hashem put me like on a kind of like when you get into like the really hot pot and you just like you're like so hard, and they just keep checking like and the reason was because my oldest son is in the autism spectrum, and it can be hard, very hard. And I went through the process of acceptance. I went through a process of grieving. I went through a process of crying my eyes. I went through a process of depression. I went through a process of all of it, all the above. So, don't admit somebody here. Okay. So anyway, for me, it was challenging because we had a situation when my son was reacting and he's been overstimulated. He's been overly sensitive. He's been overly everything. And it's really hard for him to interact with the world, interact with others, and it's so challenging for him. He's such a high soul, a sensitive soul, that is so challenging for him to even like sometimes like even like the sound of the air conditioning. Imagine that, the sound of the air conditioning when we're in the truck, it makes him upset. Imagine how high a frequency, how high his soul is, that even that the sound of that little so quiet sound, it makes him sometimes upset. So it has been challenging, really challenging for us, my husband and myself, as parents. And in the marriage, it has been like something that has in a way also makes us really close, as close as a marriage, and united us. But in other ways, on a daily basis, it has, sometimes it causes like strain. And so, it's like, Deborah was saying, that take and give, and trying to like communicate a lot. And it is a very emotional process. Besides, obviously, you have challenges of like what marriage is. It's a challenge, everyday challenge sometimes, that it adds on. If you have a child and with special needs, it adds on it. It's even more challenging, it's more emotional, it's more everything. And you're constantly worrying as to how am I going to get my child to interact with the world? How am I going to get my child to be able to, have a life and a fulfilling life? How am I going to do that? It's on top of raising your child, it's giving tools that sometimes the most children come with it. It's like something always you have to guide it, and then you have to like polish it. But when you have a child that has, it's a different frequency, and it's really hard to like tap into it and get into communicate and have a conversation when both parties can understand each other. And it's very challenging, and it's very heartbreaking many times. So, but I understood this when CBTT came into my life. I understood the fact that I have to have compassion on both sides, on the sides of my son and on my husband, because sometimes both parties don't understand each other. And then I was like, almost like, not like the referee, because there's no like fighting, but the kind of like the translator between the two worlds, that is so hard for both of them to unite and understand each other. So yesterday, it was one of those days. And that was like so hard. I was just crying, and I was like, how am I gonna do this? How am I going to find that, that point of, translation, if you will, between both parties, and have that compassion, and show that compassion that CBTT is teaching me through, through obviously, everything that Miriam is teaching us is
to go to sleep at 9:30.
It comes from Hashem. So and his Torah, and even like, and this guy comes into the mix, everyone, every part of our family comes into the mix. And so it was really like kind of like the pressure cooker for me yesterday. And I had to learn that I cannot base my feelings and what I'm feeling and everything on, on what other people do or how my son is reacting, or how my husband is reacting, how my son is reacting. I cannot base it on, if I do that, I'm going to be a wreck. And especially on a daily basis, because when you have a child, like I mentioned before, in the spectrum, they can become extremely emotional. And it's like, it doesn't end. Sometimes it doesn't end. Sometimes it's scream and scream and scream and scream and scream and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, and it doesn't end. And you cannot actually reach them. It's like they become like a child. It's a newborn child that they just scream because they're upset, and you cannot reach them. So, prayer, meditation, learning, it has been for me like the key to find calm and peace. So I can, quote unquote, I don't want to like say deal because it's a negative word, and saying it's more like finding like that inner peace that I need to be able to be a translator between every single, person and my, members of my family, and not be so incredibly upset, and know that I cannot function as a mother. And I show my son the compassion, the example of compassion that he should be having, and the compassion in terms of my husband, he should be showing at some point when it becomes very challenging. And I cannot base with my husband. I understood that my husband has a different reaction to things than I do. We're not the same. We are not the same. I had such a challenge understanding that he is a different individual, and he's like so intellectual. He's like, everything is logical. He's an engineer. Everything has to have step 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, so like, I'm just like I'm still like, art, and I'm like abstract, and I'm like, I'm creative, and we're like the opposite in many ways, but we complement each other. But there's like, we have to like try to find to actually mesh those two worlds and understand, each other and learn from each other. But it's not okay to be like demanding for him to be creative, for example, or say, hey, make this craft. It's not him. He cannot demand of me saying, oh, hey, make this phone. I was like, no. So, both of us, we have to understand that we both have our gifts. We both have our, our traits. We both need to work on and, understand each other. And Miriam's book is like, letting me understand, like really understand that he's not going to react, and I cannot base my feelings. It cannot base not just my husband, like anybody's feeling. The way people react to me, I cannot make it in a way that it makes me like, okay, now I'm gonna be sad, now I'm gonna be angry, now I'm gonna be this and that. Depending my feelings on somebody else's, it's just a recipe for depression. It's just is. Why I'm telling you this? Because most of my life, I based myself on someone else's feelings and what somebody else wanted from me. And I mold myself to, okay, so this person, they want this from me, or they wanted me to be like this, or they wanted me to be like that. So I'm going to act this way so they're happy with me. And that was like, I would do everything and anything for the person that I'm interacting with to be happy with me. And what happened? I lost myself. I didn't know who I was, and I was depressed. I had to find myself in Hashem. I had to find myself in Hashem and say, I'm here because Hashem willed it so. And Hashem created me because he willed it so. He created my neshama. He created everything in me. And I have to find those traits and what is my essence, so I can understand me and then be me, and not what anyone else is wishing me to be. Because it's very easy to fall into that kind of thing of what I'm lacking, I'm gonna mold it into becoming something that I'm not. And not just the people that will actually tell you that. It's the media, it's the picture, it's the TV that tells you continually what you should be, how you should look like, how you speak, what you should buy. It's like everything tells you what you should be, except yourself, except a daughter of Hashem, except a following righteousness. They're not actually telling you that. They're telling you what the material, like, oh, you're gonna be so awesome if you have this. And no, and I'm not like a dumb example, but sometimes people get into that. I gotta have the latest on Apple. I gotta have it. No, this weathers away. I learned that everything that's material weathers away. What remains is our neshama and the love that we have with our loved ones and the people that we interact with, and mainly and most of all Hashem. So, and everything that he's teaching us on a daily basis, and through prayer, meditation, and learning, it builds up your protection, your spiritual protection. And believe me, when I haven't done like my full davening and praying and meditating, I have a different reaction to whatever is happening and right there in my life than when I include praying, meditating, and learning. I have seriously, I have very little, my tolerance diminishes 50%. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then I see react myself to my son, not in a good way. And what happened? Okay, well, I didn't do this. I didn't pray. I didn't meditate like I was supposed to. I didn't learn like I was supposed to. And also, it's so important. For me, make a world of difference. When I was say the Shema, and the night before I went to bed, it makes a difference. It's kind of like taking the vitamin before bed. Then you're gonna wake up and it's like, oh, I feel so much better. I mean, even your dreams are different. Seriously, your dreams are different when you daven before you go to bed than when you don't do it. It's like your neshama has a protection, some kind of protection. Your mind has a kind of protection when you go to sleep, because that's when you're most vulnerable. When you sleep, your neshama is most vulnerable. So that's it, guys. Really, CBTT is truly the answer. Oh, and right now, I'm working with Healy. It's a really great tool, but it's just a tool. It's amazing. It's amazing technology. It's a frequency technology. It is amazing. Yes. And it's a tool, and it's an amazing tool, but it's just technology. But what will give you the answer to open the lock into the journey to Hashem and actually cure you in many, many ways, especially in the Neshama, your mind and your soul, it's Hashem. It's CBTT, period. So that's it, guys. I talk too much. So anyway, and yeah, Miriam has it. And it's been awesome.
It's been really awesome. We'll have to have a new session for that another time, but it is something that we as sane counselors have gotten to be able to help our sane clients and help ourselves so that we are less tired and less edgy. And definitely, I'm all into these all kinds of alternative healing modalities to bring peace and tranquility. But again, the main goal is for your soul to get out of its imprisonment, to allow your body to become purified by the fiery words of tefillah, to allow your heart to open up, and to then allow the light of God's wisdom and his Torah to nourish that soul that just came out of imprisonment. And so beautifully said, Hannah, thank you so much always for everything you do and sharing from the bottom of your heart your experiences.
You're very welcome.
And every
For sure.
one of us on the same team, I I say, I have too many clients. Can you take her? Can you take her? And Debbie takes one, and Deborah takes another, and Hannah takes another. There's a lot of like teamwork here, and getting people the support they need until they really become more in line with their own soul. And I tell you, in all relationships, sometimes you have to like save yourself. I know it's hard to be me. I always say this to myself. It's hard to be me sometimes, but it's harder not to be me. So like sometimes when a spouse or someone in your relationship brings you down, they make you feel like a zero. It's like you became very enslaved and almost entrapped by their energy, and you become really maybe even so despondent and so broken from it. And as much as sometimes you feel like you believe them almost, like, I guess if this one feels this about me and that one feels about me, and you start to like have a lot of self-doubt, and then you can become really crushed. And sometimes you have to say to yourself, yes, it's hard to be me, but it's harder not to be me. Like, I am who I am. Remember last week's class? Oh my gosh, I love her song. I'm obsessed with Miriam's song, which is the daughter of Tzira Liba Mitzman. And hopefully next week she'll join us. Actually, Bezrat Hashem every week, and sing us her songs, her mother, and hopefully her daughter too, maybe even a duet. I am because who I am. I am who I am. There's a reason I am who I am, because I have fire, water, air, and earth. And sometimes it's hard to be me, but dare not let anyone make me feel less than now. And dare not let me believe in them. So that's like the first step. Many times, like what I've had to do in my own life is like, celebrate me, even though it's hard to be me. Like when you see someone else having like a tantrum, a bad energy, a negative mode of being, and they're just like, they could be a lot lower in a sense in the way they're behaving. But usually that means they're such a high soul. So it's not really the reality of it all. But it seems like, it appears to be that they're just such darkness. And they're so below low. if there is even such a thing. And you have to then save yourself at that moment to protect yourself and say, thank God I'm not like them. And celebrate the you. That in that way, you're not like them. And that way you see the truth of certain things that they don't. And that way you're not blinded like them. And thank Hashem that you're not that way. And celebrate that you have not the challenge they have. And minimally don't let their energy charge you in a bad way. Minimally protect yourself and appreciate the you that they don't have right now. Minimally take that step and say, I'm not going to get dragged into this muck, into this entangled moment. I'm going to rise above, and I'm going to be the example so that they can see someone they can emulate. They can learn from your ways of being humble and quiet and not adding the fire to our already, what I say is like, when there's a fire burning, you don't add gasoline to the fire. You might not be able to totally put out the fire, but minimally you'll be able to stop yourself from creating more of a bursting of that fire that's so dangerous. God forbid. And we are taught in the Torah that, when there's humbleness, when there's space, where there's, this compassion, when there's understanding. So when you're quiet, when the storm is around you, then you have created a holy, sacred space of peace, even if it's within your own mind and heart. And that invites the Shekhinah to come into the home. That invites the Shekhinah to do the work for you. Because there's another word for Shekhinah, which is Esh Ochelet Esh, which is the unholy fire that's like raging right now needs some kind of holy fire to like eat it up and to get it to dissipate. So the more and more humble you are in understanding and compassion in the people around you, whether it's your children, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your friend that's going through a hard time and maybe she's not, behaving so nicely to you, the more the Shekhinah rests between you, and the more the Shekhinah will eat up the unholy fire of the other. Because you want everyone to be self-actualized. You want everyone to have that self-redemption from the darker side of the animalistic tendencies that can take over and destroy and disrupt the flow of beauty and harmony in relationships. You want it for yourself at some level because it's painful, it's disturbing, it's like it's a thorn, it's hurting, but really deep down inside, it's not even about you. Your soul wants it for their soul. Your soul longs and yearns for their redemption, for their own sake, so that you want them to be kind and loving to you, not because you want it. Yeah, it's nice. It makes life so much more pleasant. But that's not what we came down in the earth for. That's not why you really want it. Your soul longs and yearns for them to have it. Yes, you will be the beneficiary, and it is nice, but that's not like the reason. And when you let go of that neediness of them and your desire of wanting them to be nice and kind and perfect to you, then you're like a clear vessel that God will through you bring the miracles about their soul to finally more and more get out of their imprisonment, out of their blindness, out of their stuckness. I always say, if you have a little puppy and it's stuck underneath the car, you don't take it personally. And they're making you bend down this puppy that's stuck on the under. No, you're like, you feel for them. They're stuck. And they might even, like try to like bite you while you're trying to help them. And it's just they're under duress. They're under distress. They're not seeing that you're their helper. And that's the case with a lot of people in their relationships, whether it's your own child sometimes or a spouse or anyone for that matter that's stuck and blinded in that way. And that's why in so many different places in the Torah, it actually teaches us that compassion has the power to redeem the other. It's a Zohar, Kabbalistic, mystical remedy. People go to homeopath to get a remedy. This is a remedy. You have compassion on them and you unleash the powers of their soul. We've discussed it, I think, in some other classes, but it's LeYaakov Asher Pada Es Avram. Compassion has the power to redeem the other. Yaakov represents Tiferes in the Spheros, and Yaakov represents the compassion in English. So with compassion, you have the power to redeem. Pada means redeem. The Avraham, the Chesed, the love of Hashem buried deep within them that they don't have access to, that's buried with them. So when we feel compassionate toward them, when we act kindly and lovingly, which is the manifestation of the physical acts that we could do with that compassion toward them. And even if it's so difficult for us, but we keep our mouth a bit quiet and we wait till the storm within subsides and create that peaceful moment of that sacred space of not reacting back. Then we have the power to redeem. Then we have the power to draw the Shekhinah into our life and redeem them and the whole situation and the whole scenario can turn on its flip side like as if Kriyat Yam Suf is happening. Unbelievable miracles. And the teaching is that the fire of a woman, as much as she has amazing, fiery wisdom, she has only 5. And that's why in her name is Isha. And it has the word Isha, hey, that's her 5, because hey equals 5. Her husband has in his name a yud, which equals in the gematria 10. And that means he has 10 faculties of wisdom. Now, wait a minute. He has 10, but all of them are undeveloped. Because, the yud is a little something and the hey is kind of broad and expanded. So she has broad-mindedness, way more than him. Oh, but she only has 5 of it. He has 10, but it's kind of undeveloped. So we need the fire of love, basically, to meld the two neshamot together. So what's missing in her will be his, and what's missing in him will be hers. And there'll be a melding of two opposite extreme souls. And the fire of love, the fire of compassion, the fire of even quietness helps the melding of the two souls to become more alike and to be more aligned and to become more of a holy fire of love. And that's in all relationships. Everyone has missing something that you don't have, or that you do have actually. And everyone and others have something that you don't have. So if they're in your life, there's something to be gained by the interaction, by having an understanding that even though it seems like they may act in a lower way, but you are there to help redeem it. And they are there to help redeem you. And when you see relationships that way, it's like you have a castle around your heart. I wrote a book on that for children. It's done. The artwork is done. We're just on an assembly line here to get books out. With a pandemic and everyone kind of at a standstill with everyone home, it has really put a lot of the projects I handed out a year and a half ago, some places, still not even touched because of what's been going on in the world. But the main idea is that it's like, a princess is in the castle, and she has like this fortress, this big, huge, thick castle around her, and she even has guards in front of the castle, all to protect her. And so our heart is where our soul is. And our heart is where the sensitivity, the ego, the hurt feelings, and we need wisdom to be like guards around our castle of our mind and our heart and so that we're protected. So we don't as easily get, sucked into the things that are going on around us. That's CBTT. That is davening and praying and meditating. That is learning Torah. That is stationing all the guards to then shield you from the elements that are, all around you, whether it's people or life. Some of you know here, and I haven't really gone on a crazy, wild way telling anyone really how crazy and wild my year was, and even the year before, let me tell you, and even kind of even a year before that, it's been like, and every year I'm thinking, okay, this is the worst of things. Like, okay, I've had my quota of like challenges, and then boom, the next year, another challenge and another challenge, and you think that challenge led to another challenge, and it's, yeah, and you're just like, you've taken the steps to protect your heart. You've taken the steps to protect your mind. So even real life scary events cannot drown you. Even real life unknowable events can't break you. Even real life events, you could still have the faith and trust that whatever happens, it's from Hashem. And as the Tanya teaches us, when people are not nice to you, it's like literally from Hashem. Whether it's to test you, whether it's to do a tikkun, whether it's just squeeze the best out of you and get you to that new height of like tolerance, or that new awareness of your weakness through that experience. It begins with protecting yourself. It begins with redeeming that godly power of being able to love another like yourself. And that can only happen when you redeem your godly soul out of its imprisonment. That can only happen when you make a partner, not by coercion, but by persuasion, your animal soul and your ego and your yeshus and all the parts of you that are really, really actually very holy. I'm teaching a class. It's live on, you want to meet my husband? Hi. This is a live Facebook.
Oh, hi.
They can see. Okay, it's a marriage class. All right. So I guess the time is, do you know that that's on live, like a Zoom live?
Yeah.
Do you want to share something with
It's
the people?
wonderful.
Do you want to share anything?
I'll let you share.
Okay. All right. So my blessings to you all. And may we continue to go higher and higher. And Bezrat Hashem. Blessings to you all. And Hannah, if you could, I'll put myself on mute and continue the conversation, questions, answers.
If you guys have any questions, if not, we can just finish the session. So are you?
Hi, Hannah. You did so beautiful. I loved how you spoke.
Thank you guys. Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Hannah. And Devorah here. If anyone has any questions, me and Hannah are here to answer.
Yeah.
And you could
yeah.
find our contact information, Hannah's
Yes.
phone number and my phone number in the chat.
They're right there. I'm also on Facebook 24/7. It's my workplace. So anyway,
Okay.
guys, if you have any questions,
Very much.
and we're here. Bye, Cookie Pie. And so, anyway, guys, I love you all, and then take care, okay?
Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Boo Boo. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.